Welcome back, everyone, to another week of writing, and it has been a great week indeed. Today, we're going to talk about short stories and how they can help you write novels. We're going to talk about sinners. We're going to talk about a really great book club I'm in here on YouTube. We are going to talk about cigarettes and characterization, a great little moment in Sinners that I want to unpack and share what I learned and observed from that moment from a writing craft perspective. Welcome. It's Asa. My name's Asa Merritt. I'm the writer of 6 Sermons, the Audible original starring Stephanie Hsu from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Welcome to the channel. So, right now, I am working on a psychological horror thriller. It's my first novel. Primarily, I've written dramatic writing. You know, that series for Audible is a series, and I've been struggling, to be perfectly honest. I'm having trouble with the change in medium. I'm not comfortable writing in prose yet, but I had a kind of a breakthrough this week, and that's what I want to share with you. And if you are kind of stuck right now or in writer's block, I think you should maybe try this. And what I did is I wrote a short story, a really short story. It's just like 1,200 words that sort of employs one of the mechanics of my book. You know, my book's a horror novel, so as you know, curses have rules, horror stories, there's all these rules, and it really kind of just liberated me. It gave me something to write, it gave me something to finish. And, you know, I first learned about this idea. There is an author on YouTube named Lindy Young. I'm so sorry, Lynn, if I got that wrong. She mentioned this once where she wrote a short story with a side character and how that helped her unlock part of the project that she was working on at the time. You know, I think a lot of writers use this strategy. This was the first time I had used it, and it was really successful. It was a really great trick, and it just affirmed me as a writer. You know, it was like, okay, you can do this, you can write something, and now I have something complete that I could share. And that was the big writing win of the week. Didn't make progress on the novel, but that is okay. In terms of this week's Roundup, the things I read and watched and saw, it was a really great week. I want to start with, Sinners. I mean, Sinners was really, really the special art experience this week. But I'm going to get to that in a second. I want to start with a book club that I discovered. A colleague here on YouTube, his channel's Write With Me. I'll put it in the notes. You know, he has this book club, and this week we read a book called When We Cease to Understand the World, a really interesting piece of literature. It's this hybrid of fiction and nonfiction. It's about science. It tracks various famous scientists, Fritz Haber, Alexander Grothendieck, Werner Heisenberg, Schrödinger. And basically, it goes through each of these scientists and kind of traces their psychological state as they make their respective discoveries in their respective fields, math, science, whatever. And sort of the book is constantly teasing out this question of what are the limits of science? Are we making science that we don't understand? Is it really the scientists who are most responsible for the most destruction in this world? We have, of course, the atomic bomb. This book goes into, the deadly gases used in World War I. And it's really kind of this riveting read. It's this book that you find yourself learning so much, which I always really appreciate out of a book, as well as kind of it's doing, one thing right with me. That channel, what he said during the book club was, he really appreciates a book that he doesn't get. And I really felt that way too. It was like a puzzle to read and to understand how it's working. Anyway, it's a really, really exciting read, hard at times. There are some sort of horrific sections, but a really exciting book. And I think it really befits the time. The author there is Chilean. His name is Benjamin Labutut. And I was reading it in translation. I read the English version. But anyway, I recommend it. Next, I want to talk ever so briefly, about a video essay I saw on YouTube claiming that elevated horror might be dead. And I really really recommend that essay. I'll put that in the notes as well. Basically, her contention, the writer of this video essay asserted that, this kind of A24 type idea-driven psychological sort of gesture that horror has really experienced in the last 15, 20 years might be on the way out in favor of kind of more poppy, fun, splashy, fun for fun's sake type horror. So if you're like a horror fan or a horror writer, I definitely recommend that. Now, let's get to Sinners. I mean, gosh, I was really blown away. I went into Sinners cold, really cold. I knew it was a movie I was going to see, and so I very deliberately insulated myself from reviews, friends who had seen it. Really tried. I didn't know the premise at all, and I'm going to speak about Sinners for now without spoilers. So hang in here. I guess number one thing I have to say about this film, it was, for me at least, such an example of a creator who had a vision, went for that vision, had a really distinct, ambitious, bold vision, really went for it, gave it all they had, left it all on the court, and achieved that vision. So I think, if you're saying to yourself, I'm not really a horror person, or like, I heard this or this, I do think that even if that vision isn't for you, this project, that film is really special because of that thing I just said. It's like, this was a singular, clear vision. This person went for it and achieved it. I think that's hard to do in any context, in any medium. But if you're working in Hollywood and there's an expectation of widespread commercial success, I feel like that's particularly difficult to achieve. And I think he did. Sinners is a horror movie. It's a new horror movie starring Michael B. Jordan, directed and written by Ryan Coogler, who also made Black Panther and Creed and Fruitvale Station. And yeah, I really recommend it. It really sort of, to me, succeeded in communicating what I think it had to say about race, succeeded as a horror movie in the sense of it was consistently entertaining, formally was constantly experimenting with things, doing things with music you don't normally see, with sound design you don't normally see. It's a really cool piece. It's a really cool piece, and I still haven't really kind of dug into commentary. I'm sure there's some great criticism out there, but I personally was really, really impressed by Sinners, which brings me to part 3 of this week, a little writing tip that I have for you, something I noticed in Sinners. This does contain a spoiler, so if you are trying to avoid any spoilers for Sinners, subscribe to the channel now so you catch next week and maybe tune in to the next episode, because what I'm about to say does sort of reveal some stuff about the film. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is at the end when Michael B. Jordan, one of his characters, is sitting down. It's after the climax. It's after everyone's died. And he's shakily trying to roll that cigarette and fails. And this is kind of, to me, such an exquisite kind of grace note of characterization, because if you go back to the beginning, and Coogler does do us the favor of giving us a little flashback. If you go back to the beginning, there's this moment where the brothers, the twins, are leaning up, totally looking good against that car. And, his brother who died passes him a cigarette. So in this film, one of the brothers dies, these twins, and it devastates the other twin. And the twin who dies is the one who rolls his brother a cigarette in the beginning of the film and passes it to him in this way that it's so clear they've done this 1,000, 10,000 times, where, he's the one rolling the cigarettes. He's the guy who knows how to do it. Maybe you have someone like this in your life. And, at the end of the film, we echo back to that, and he's trying to roll this cigarette, and he can't. And it's such a beautiful little kind of articulation of his grief and frustration and just the fact that he's so broken in this moment. He can't even roll a cigarette, and it connects so clearly to his brother and the grief there. And so, that I just think was like a really great example of showing, not telling, of how, you can use an object or a thing and explore a character's relationship to that thing and demonstrate things about that character. And cigarettes, a pretty quotidian prop, particularly in that historical moment. But so much storytelling happened there, and I just thought that was particularly elegant and something I wanted to share. So, yeah, that's all for this week. My name's Asa, and I'll see you next week.